Love you. All right, let's begin. Aloha and welcome to A Course in Miracles lesson 167. Yes, with Hope Johnson coming to you from Kahena Beach Estates on the beautiful Big Island of Hawaii. Yay! Lesson 167. I'll read the whole lesson and then we'll go over it step by step. There is one life, and that I share with God. There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. It is the one condition in which all that God created share. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. Life has no opposite. There is no death because what God created shares his life. There is no death because an opposite to God does not exist. There is no death because the Father and the Son are one. In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. It is the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy. All sorrow, loss, anxiety, and suffering and pain, even a little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort, or the merest frown acknowledge death and thus deny you live. You think that death is of the body, yet it is but an idea, irrelevant to what is seen as physical. A thought is in the mind. It can be then applied as mind directs it, but its origin is where it must be changed if change occurs. Ideas leave not their source. The emphasis this course has placed on that idea is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. It is the cause of healing. It is why you cannot die. Its truth established you as one with God. Death is the thought that you are separate from your Creator. It is the belief conditions change. Emotions alternate because of causes you cannot control, you did not make, and you can never change. It is the fixed belief ideas can leave their source and take on qualities the source does not contain, becoming different from their own origin, apart from it in kind as well as distance, time, and form. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. They can extend all their source contains. In that, they can go far beyond themselves. But they cannot give birth to what was never given them. As they are made, so will their making be. As they were born, so they then give birth. And where they come from, there they will return. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what is its waking state. It cannot make a body nor abide within a body. What is alien to the mind does not exist because it has no source. For mind creates all things that are and cannot give them attributes it lacks, nor change its own eternal mindful state. It cannot make the physical What seems to die is but the sign of mind of asleep. The opposite of life can only be another form of life. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it, because it is not opposite in truth. Its form may change, it may appear to be what it is not, yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make when it believes it sleeps. God creates only mind awake. He does not sleep, and his creations cannot share what he gives not, nor make conditions which he does not share with them. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, with the power to extend forever changelessly, but yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. What seems to be the opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it is not and to assume an alien power which it does not have, a foreign state it cannot enter, or a false condition not within its source, it merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. The changes wrought are substanceless, and all events are nowhere. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was. Let us today be children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shuts his eyes or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps and sees in dreams an opposite to what he is? We will not ask for death in any form today, nor will we let imagined opposites to life abide even an instant where the thought of life eternal has been set by God himself. His holy home we strive to keep today as he established it and wills it be forever and forever. He is Lord of what we think today. And in his thoughts, which have no opposite, we understand there is one life, and that we share with him, with all creation, with their thoughts as well, whom he created in a unity of life that cannot separate in death and leave the source of life from where it came. We share one life because we have one source, a source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which he created perfect. As we were, so are we now and will forever be. A sleeping mind must waken as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life so perfectly it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no more a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected and the light which makes reflection possible. No vision now is needed, for the wakened mind is one that knows its source, itself, its holiness. That completes the text. So we will now go to all the text. I took notes on it. Wow, I took a lot of notes on it. All right. You're like, good. What does that shit mean? All right. Paragraph 1. There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. It is the one condition in which all that God created share. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. There is no death because what God created shares his life. There is no death because an opposite to God does not exist. There is no death because the Father and the Son are one. So Jesus began this lesson by challenging one of the ego's most basic assumptions, right? That life exists in degrees. You know, one of my friends, he has a doctor telling him his heart is 60% good, right? It's other 40%. It's not alive, not working, not working properly. That's one example. It's like something that can be gained, something that can be lost, something that can be strengthened, right? Your life can be born, it can be destroyed. Life, like truth, is one, is what this paragraph said. So there's not different kinds of life. Life isn't a property of form. Okay. It's the nature of God himself. That's why it says you have one life. Christians confuse this all the time and think it's the one mortal life that they seem to have. And then they're going to go either one place or the other after that one ends, right? But what is being said here is that there's only life, and we can't really abide in form, okay? The forms of life can be different, but life remains one and shared by all of creation, okay? So this first paragraph is establishing the central premise of this lesson, which is there is one life, and that I share with God. Okay, life doesn't have an opposite. If God is life, then God has no opposite, then death cannot be real. We make death real. We make it out to be real. We say, we're all going to die. Death is inevitable. Stuff like that. We want to make our death comfortable and stuff. So death only appears to be meaningful while we're dreaming of separation. But in reality, we share the same life with God. And so that cannot be divided by death. That's just a wrong assumption that it could ever be divided. No one dies when they appear to die in form. Nothing is changed about them. We're completely changeless. Even taking on a birth and doing changes all throughout a life, that's only in form. It's not really happening. Aloha. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. All right. Paragraph 2. In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. That's why it's good to know how you feel, right? It is the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy. I've been talking recently about can you not like something and still be joyful? Of course. Of course. You can recognize, I don't like that, right? Recognize you don't like that thing, right? It doesn't mean that there's loss of some kind, right? You could be supremely happy recognizing you don't like something that's arising in form. It's okay. The form doesn't have to make you happy. It actually can never make you happy. It can never satisfy you. Nothing here can satisfy you. Your happiness does not come from form. There are things you seem to like and dislike in form. It can all be met with a perfectly joyful mind. Okay? All sorrow, loss, anxiety, suffering, and pain, even a little sigh of weariness. Watch your sighs. That's amazing. It'll clue you in. It'll clue you in. I just started watching myself do that many years ago, right? To clue me in. Oh, my mind isn't supremely happy right now. What seems to be wrong? What seems to be the problem? What do I seem to be thinking about? Right? That seems to be an issue. Any slight discomfort, the merest frown, they all acknowledge death. And the more we acknowledge death, the more we're projecting it. See, it seems normal in the world to acknowledge death. Like we're all going to die, inevitable, And, with that idea that we're all going to die, I was talking yesterday, it's like we're in a death camp. We're like trying to have the best time we can before we expire. Okay. And thus you deny you live. That's the paragraph. So here Jesus is showing us that the meaning of death is not physical. It's not physical death. It's not the body's end. It's the belief that life can be diminished. It's that belief. That's death. That's the death, right? So, you see signs of death like sickness, suffering, anxiety. These are signs of death because it's a thought in the mind. It's a thought that life can be diminished or threatened or lost, okay? So resentment, disappointment, guilt, sorrow, remorse, like you feel bad. If you're going to feel bad that you upset someone even, the ego will tell you that's good that you feel bad that you upset someone so you stop upsetting people, but annoying people. Or the idea that someone is annoying. I love that one. I get the sense someone is annoying from time to time. And I'm happy that I got the sense because now I can see that there's something to be forgiven here. It's not forgiving a person for being annoying, and it's not forgiving yourself for thinking that they're annoying. It's actually forgiving the underlying thought and recognizing what you think is happening in this field where someone seems to be annoying you isn't even happening. The world is not here. That's forgiveness. It's not forgiving them. I see this all the time, especially with relationships. Oh, I'm glad you're giving me such a good forgiveness opportunity by being so annoying. And it's like, they're not doing anything. You don't forgive them. You don't forgive yourself. You forgive the idea because this is a thought of death. Okay. The forgiveness goes to what you think happened and you recognize it didn't really happen. That's true forgiveness. So every resentment, etc., it's resting upon an assumption that something real can be lost or taken away, right? Jealousy is the idea something can be taken away. Every single one, everything that's not supreme joy, it's as if something real can be taken away. So these experiences are the different ideas, different forms of the same idea, separation from life. The only problem everyone has is belief in separation. That's the only problem. And it doesn't even occur in time. It's projecting time. It's outside of time, projecting time. You're taking it on, not in time. And then you're projecting time as if the cause is in time. Okay? Your childhood or whatever, So the purpose is not, again, judging ourselves for having these experiences, judging anyone else for having experiences. It's helping us to recognize the hidden belief behind all experiences. Okay? Whenever we believe that our peace depends on some condition in the world, like someone behaving differently, etc., our self-improving, that's another condition, right? Our own self-improving. Like, I'm not there yet. That's the ego's thought, right? I'm not, and I've seen it like this. I'm not there yet. Therefore, I'm going to act like an asshole and you should accept that. Right? So we're temporarily accepting the idea of death instead of life. And that's really what you can say sleeping is. We'll get into the sleeping part. I love how this lesson is coming up. I've been talking about for the past couple weeks. No one's even asleep. They're pretending to be asleep because they don't want to be awake. That's all. It's just pretending because you don't want to be awake. Right. And even A Course in Miracles people, it's like, how dare you say you're awake? One person told me, because I did an article about disliking things, and it's okay. It's like you can be awake and still be disliking things in form, right? It doesn't really matter. And this guy comes on and he goes, you better figure out how to like every single thing if you want to wake up. And I was like, I don't want to wake up. I just accept that I'm awake already, you know? And then it's like, whoo, the flaring up comes up. And it's like, here it is in a lesson. I didn't even know where the lesson was. I had no idea, but it just happens to come up on the one lesson that I do in a week about how you're not even asleep. You're awake. So good. Funny. All right. I'm checking on you Facebook peeps. Okay. Thank you for being here. I love you. All right. Paragraph 3. You think that death is of the body, yet it is but an idea, irrelevant to what is seen as physical. See, physical death is like proving that death is real to an ego, but you don't have to accept that because death is not. It's irrelevant to what's seen as physical is what this says. Right? That means that it's just an idea. It's just an idea that you're separate from your source. It's an idea that something real can be lost. It's a thought in the mind. Okay, it can be then applied as mind directs it, but its origin is where it must be changed if change occurs. This course is directed toward changing that thought. Ideas leave not their source. The emphasis this course is placed on the idea is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. It is the cause of healing. It is why you cannot die. Its truth established you as one with God. So I had a friend tell me today that he was explaining to his granddaughter basically who he is. And he started it out with, I'm going to die. I'm like, well, I'm still holding out the possibility that you're not going to die for you, because you can't die. And so, you're really projecting as if and convincing someone else as if a physical death is death. It's not. It's irrelevant. Dying in form is irrelevant to this idea, actually. This idea of death, it's actually irrelevant. But the ego uses that as proof that death is true. So really, he didn't tell her about himself. He told her about an ego self. The self that we are does not ever die. And bodies are not necessary for communication either. Okay. So it is why you cannot die. Its truth established you as one with God. Okay. And that's the idea, the central idea that life is one. The idea of this course, one life, and that we share with God. So the course shifts the focus here from form to cause. The true cause is mental. It's not form. Death is not a physical event. So, no one's died in reality. It's not a physical event. It's a thought. So since it is an idea, it can only be corrected where that idea exists. And that's within the mind. That's what it's saying. This idea of death cannot be corrected in form, trying to make the body live longer, for instance. It cannot be corrected there. It can be only corrected in the mind. So this is a really important principle of A Course in Miracles. And I think this is the first place where it gets introduced in the lessons. Lesson 167, ideas leave not their source. Okay. And basically that means healing is possible because the source of suffering remains available for correction. It can be corrected. It always remains available because the ideas do not leave their source. That's where the correction happens. The world reflects thought, but thought remains in the mind. It can't be corrected in form. See that? Because it's the mind that's projecting the form in the first place. So if the ideas don't leave their source and the Son of God has never left God, right? If God, God is basically manifesting thought. The Son of God never left God. This is why healing is possible and why death is actually impossible. The source remains unchanged. God is eternal. That means God's Son is eternal. That means everything that exists is only eternal. It's not a passing thing. Okay, paragraph 4. Yes, oneness with God and all. That is right, Cynthia. Thank you. Paragraph 4. Death is the thought that you are separate from your Creator. It is the belief conditions change. Emotions alternate because of causes you cannot control, you did not make, and you can never change. This is why people suffer like mofos. They believe that the world they see is really there, separate from their mind. It's the fixed ideas, it's a fixed belief ideas can leave their source and take on qualities the source does not contain, such as death, becoming different from their own origin, sickness too, suffering, apart from it in kind, as well as distance, time, and form, apart from source. So Jesus is giving his actual definition of death here, belief in separation, right? It's not fundamentally about bodies. It's belief that we have become something other than what God created. You know, we're changeless. That's what we hear a lot with the Course in Miracles. I am still as God created me. That comes up in many lessons. I think it's the same lesson several times, maybe worded different ways. I am still as God created me. So it's the belief that circumstances control us. Oh, I don't want to do that because it'll make me upset. I don't want to go there because it'll make me anxious, right? It's the belief that circumstances can control us, that our peace depends on some external events. And we don't have a choice in what events come up. We really don't. We don't have a choice in who we hang out with. We don't have a choice in anything we do. It's being orchestrated. So it's the belief that we can be separated from our source, really, making ourselves as if we're limited and we're subject to the whims of the world.
We do have choice in fear or love.
Right. That's the choice. Right. That's the one choice that we have. That's right. So when we believe we have choices about coming and going and, you know, what we're saying and what we're doing, we forget the choice that we really have, which is between love and fear. Right. And humans are the only ones that have that choice. Everything else, pets, animals, plants, all those guys, they're just like manifesting as we wish. Right? We're the ones who have the choice between love and fear. This is always the only choice there really is between these two alternatives. So every fear is ultimately resting on the idea that life actually left its source. And now it dies. Now it has an opposite. So A Course in Miracles is telling us over and over again that this is impossible. It's impossible for death to be the opposite of life. Life does not have opposites. It can change forms, but it cannot have an opposite. So the entire ego thought system really depends on believing that separation occurred. And, you know, ego thought system is basically this sense of self that believes it's separate from its source. So believing separation occurred is resting on this idea that life left its source. Now it has an opposite. And this is foreign to us.
Isn't it weird how when one tries to turn to God, that's what they feel, is they feel the fear, the ego, as if leaving the ego is separating.
That's right.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. So Mele Kai is asking, isn't it weird that when people are returning to God or trying to return their mind to God, there's this sense of fear because it's as if there's a death taking place. And that's because we've appointed the ego to keep us safe in separation. Okay. So it's like if we're separating from this separate self idea is meant to keep us safe in separation, then it seems like we're losing ourselves. It seems like we're going into the void, right? So that's why with A Course in Miracles, we take it slow, because while we still believe in the thought of separation, we're too fearful to fully be released from the ego, because that seems like death. It seems like our thing that's keeping us safe, our one thing keeping us safe, is being lost. So we do it slowly through recognizing our function and where forgiveness is being called for. Just noticing where forgiveness is being called for, noticing we're making something out in the world to be the cause of our upset feeling. Right. I mean, I still get that, where I'll get the sense like someone or something in the world is responsible for my upset feeling. Like if, I'm witnessing someone being tense, there's a conversation, there's something being tense from time to time, I'm not fully joyful with it. And so that's where I'm recognizing that's where forgiveness is applied. What I think is making me react like this is not here. There's only truth. And it's not a matter of, don't judge yourself. You don't have to judge yourself. It's not a matter of self-judgment. And even when I say don't judge yourself, it's like, be careful with that. Because if you find yourself judging yourself, forgive that too. Not forgive yourself for being judgmental. You're not really capable of being judgmental. Forgive the idea that judgment was even possible. Forgive the idea that you're reacting to an illusion is even possible. See, it's believing that it's possible and that you're wrong for it actually is projecting this over and over again. So to be really light with everything, it's like, oops, I see how that feels. Okay, what is forgiveness again? What I think happened didn't even happen. That's all. So this thought system that depends on believing separation occurs, it depends on it. This paragraph is exposing that the assumption is completely false in the first place. And this is the way the world thinks. People often think I'm weird because I don't think like this. But then at the same time, people seem to get some relief too that I don't think like this. At first it was like people weren't getting relief because I wasn't integrating it as much as I am now, right? The more I'm integrating it within myself, it's like the more I'm able to extend the peace to others. And I could see that they feel it, even if they come up pissed in the first place. That, a guy yesterday was like calling me selfish for eating meat. And I'm like, okay. And I laugh. And, it's like, even if they come up wanting to argue and fight, it's like they can feel it because it's integrated. As it's more integrated within ourselves, we see the reflection in others and also the gratitude in others. In another place, A Course in Miracles talks about how the whole world will reflect its gratitude to you when your mind is completely healed of the thought of guilt and shame and suffering, basically separation. When your mind is completely healed, the whole world only reflects gratitude to you and nothing else. You don't have to strive for this. This is not something to strive for. It's just to take whatever it is in the moment, consider it's a given for forgiveness' sake, and do your function in the moment, in the present moment. You don't have to strive for anything. In fact, striving is the opposite of what you want. Yeah. So paragraph 5, unless we got any, nope, everyone's good. Okay, I only have one stream today. It's small. All right, paragraph 5. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. They can extend all that their source contains. In that, they can go far beyond themselves, but they cannot give birth to what was never given them. So they cannot give birth to death. As they are made, so will their making be. As they were born, so will they give birth. And where they come from, there they will return. So Okay. So we're going to go over that. I hear you. So basically, creation extends itself, but cannot become its opposite. So in creation, which this is not, okay, it's basically a dream, right? It's a dream that we made, but we're not really asleep. We're not the dreamer. That's also a projection. It seems like creation has become its opposite, but it has not become its opposite, because life only extends life. Love only extends love. In creation, this is how it is. It's saying forms may change, but they don't become their opposite. Here, it seems like forms become their opposite. In this apparent world, based on the thought of separation, it seems like that. It seems like God doesn't extend only God. It seems like God also extends evil. In fact, most people believe in a vengeful God. Okay? So fear and guilt and separation and death, they cannot be true creations, because they do not originate in God. It's where it says, and where they come from, there they will return. So the ideas do not leave their source, meaning that the idea of God is eternal. So it doesn't leave its source. It's only dreaming that it could become its opposite and include death. Right? As they were born, so will they then give birth. They cannot give birth to what was never given them. That's why this world doesn't exist. Okay? Because we've only been given the thought of God to create with. We haven't been given an opposite to that. See?
All right, now I see.
Okay, good. So this world that we're perceiving is not here, because we have not been given this kind of thought to create with. We made up the thought of separation. So the idea of separation is not leaving its source either, which is nothingness. It's not even really in our mind. You can say it's projected. We chose sleep. We chose sleepiness. We're not really going to sleep, though. So fear and guilt and separation and death, they can never be true creations, because they don't originate in God. That's not their origin. God didn't create a meaningless world. That's another lesson, right? They may appear to exist within a dream, but they're never going to be born of reality. So everything remains connected to its source. That's what this lesson and this paragraph reinforces. Everything remains connected to its source. So that's why we could deny any meaning to things that seem to be apart from their source. And, what I see is people getting confused and trying to deny their experience. This is not meaning to deny your experience. You're experiencing a world of separation. So by denying your experience, you're also denying your opportunities for forgiveness. So it's like being honest about your experience too. So this paragraph is basically saying, since God is life, his creations can only extend life. That's why it also says you're perfectly unaffected by lack of love. It doesn't matter how it comes, from someone else to you, from you to yourself, from you to another person. You are perfectly unaffected by lack of love. So pretending to be affected by that is basically pretending to be asleep. God is life, and his creations can only extend life. No matter what they seem to be projecting, they can only extend life. They cannot produce something that God didn't give. So lack of love is something that God did not give. Cannot produce that. It's impossible. Okay, let's see. We got a question here. There is a perception that my 28-year-old nephew just died of cancer. I welcome this gift of lesson and teaching, Hope. Thank you. Oh, good. Yeah. So you can rejoice in knowing that that's not true. See, he seemed to have been born in the first place 28 years ago. You can say that is death. right there. It's a reflection of death. The death itself, like this lesson is saying, is a thought. It's not a reality. So it's like we look at it like this, like a physical death is death, and a physical birth, that's life. No, it's all really reflecting a thought of death, that you had this starting place in a body, that he was ever housed by a body. And your communication with him has not been lost. Your communication with your nephew has not been lost, but your belief that he's died makes it as if you can't communicate with him. So when you open up to, holy shit, he hasn't even died. Like, he existed and exists forever, for eternity. He was never born in the first place. So you're continuing with your communication with him in that way. You're continuing anyways, whether you know it or not. It's just that you're buying into a thought of death, or you're choosing love. So buying into the thought of death in that moment is choosing fear. And then you have the opportunity here to forgive that idea. Remember, death is an idea. Forgive that idea and see truly. And that's how we undo this dreaming and truly see our loved ones how they really are, not in a form of a body, right? Or a dead body, for that matter. Now he's bones. Now he turned into bones. I see, like, especially here in Hawaii, people get pissed off when someone fucks around with grave sites, right? They're like, that's where my ancestors are buried. It's like, okay, you want to die is what you're saying. Of course, I don't say that to people in the moment, because they feel like it's really real to them. Wow, those people took something from one grave site and brought it to another. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this world is reflecting this idea of death, and we're projecting it whenever we get offended about someone messing with the bones, for instance. They are not there. They were never in their body in the first place, and they're certainly not in the bones that are buried under the earth. Okay. So it's like taking everything way lighter will actually help people see and undo these things. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely not saying that you should go and fuck around with anyone's grave. Don't take it like that. Yeah, disclaimer. Next thing you know, I have some auntie at my door. Knock, knock, knock. What are you saying? And it is all in the thought, though. Okay, so another follow-up question here. So the thought of my 53rd birthday yesterday is a thought of death, because I was never born and shall never die. Ha, ha, ha. I do want to see truly how we really are. That doesn't mean you can't celebrate an imaginary birthday. For me, I like to put imaginary in front of it. Like, even if I'm saying happy birthday to someone, I say happy imaginary birthday, right? It's like, let's celebrate. Let's have fun. We don't need to be boo-hooing about this whole thing. It's like, and I use the word apparently often, like, I'm a parent. People ask me, I'm apparently 53. They ask me what age I am. I'm apparently 53. And then I'll usually follow that up, but I'm actually an eternal being just like you. And sometimes people are like caught off guard by that. Like, what the fuck? Really? Yeah, that's the case. I'm just reminding us that that's the case. But it doesn't mean it's bad to ask, how old are you? It's not bad to do anything, right? Paragraph 6. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what is its waking state. It cannot make a body. It cannot make a body. Isn't that fun? Nor abide within a body. It's not in there. It's something that I've shared a lot. You're not in a body. That's not to say that it's not fucking awesome to be somatically aware. It is. Okay. It's like, it's hope. If you're not in a body, why do you spend 14 hours a week at least doing block therapy, which is all about addressing pain in the body sense, because being somatically aware actually makes you more aware of how you're feeling. Right. And if you're aware of how you're feeling, you can tell when you're not in a supremely joyful state. You can tell when forgiveness is being called for. What I found before I started doing block therapy and being more somatically aware, I wasn't able to be as aware of my state, right? So, and the other thing, I don't even have a choice in whether I do block therapy. In fact, the manifestation of it is an effect of wanting to be more somatically aware so I could be more effective in my forgiveness practice. I didn't know how that was going to come about, but I certainly knew that it was my awareness of the somatic body that was giving me the insight that I needed to be in a forgiving state of mind. So that willingness started manifesting something that appears to be wooden blocks that I use to address pain. And apparently a bunch of my friends love it now too. Okay. So what is alien to the mind does not exist. That's the body. What is alien to the mind does not exist because it has no source. Also, it's the thought of separation. The body is really, and the world is really an effect of the thinking. So the thought starts out as being alien to the mind. And then the next thing is manifestation. So the ego uses manifestation to prove that death is real, that suffering is real. But really, it's the thought that's alien to the mind, the thought of separation, because it has no source. It has no source. For mind creates all things that are and cannot give them attributes it lacks. So you can't give anything attributes that your mind lacks. Your mind lacks separation. That's what it lacks. That's what it lacks. So you can't really give anything those attributes and make it real. You cannot change the eternal mindful state. That's what it says. You cannot change the eternal mindful state. You can't fuck it up. That's what's happening here. It cannot make the physical. That's why I'm saying there's no world. It is not here. But we seem to be imprisoned in a physical world. We seem to be in a body. We are not in a body. So what seems to die is but the sign of mind asleep. Now it's saying your mind is not asleep, but what seems to die is a sign of a mind asleep, right? Isn't that funny? So this paragraph, let's go over this paragraph. It's containing one of the lessons ideas, an important idea. This is a very important idea to me. The mind can think it sleeps. This is a very important idea for everyone, period. Because people think they're sleeping and they think they need to wake up. And I got people who study A Course in Miracles who just read this lesson today and do the fucking opposite of what it's saying to do. This lesson is saying, today we're going to do this. And then the next thing you know, the person goes and tells a person, I'm going to die. It's basically saying we're not going to give any truth to this thought today. See how this is? That's why we do these deep dives. So we're recognizing, because there's so much just reading this shit and then going about just doing everything the way we normally do it, right? No one's dying and no one's asleep. So the mind can think it sleeps, but it cannot actually stop being what God created. What God created is a mind awake, is what this says. A mind awake. So this, yes, in the mind of God. And it doesn't leave the mind of God, which is its source. That's why this isn't happening. That's why forgiveness acknowledges that nothing happened. See, people are caught up in forgiving themselves and forgiving people for doing shit. And not forgiving. It's one thing to do that and get some relief. Maybe you get some relief in the moment. Good. Jesus wants you to have relief. I want you to have relief. But more than that, you're being asked to collapse time, to collapse the idea that the separation ever occurred. So that takes the kind of forgiveness that actually does that. The kind of forgiveness where I forgive myself and I forgive you doesn't do that. That's what we went over in chapter 2. Okay, that was a really, to me, the most important point of chapter 2. You know, stop this circular forgiveness. I mean, it's nice to start out with when you're starting out. This is what you're doing. It's nice. You're getting some relief. And then we need to take it further. This is what the little willingness gets added up to. So the mind thinks it sleeps, but it cannot actually stop being what God created, which is a mind awake. So the sleeping state is not a change in your reality. Okay. It's an effect of a mistaken belief. And that mistaken belief is mistaken, right? You're mistaken right now. So you're making a state for yourself that seems like you're asleep. All right. But the mind remains the mind that God created. You are only mind. You're not a body. The mind remains the mind that God created. Whether it believes itself awake or asleep doesn't matter. It's still the same as God created it. So what appears to die is a symbol within a dream. The dream doesn't alter you. It doesn't change who you are. All right. And you can say, okay, if you want to identify with a dreamer, that's okay. But recognize that you are actually the mind awake identifying as a dreamer. Okay. And the dream does not change the dreamer, even that you're projecting to dream a dream. Okay. It's not changing the dreamer. Reality stays the same beneath that experience of sleeping. So this is something that I've noticed for many years, even before I started A Course in Miracles. I would see this already, and people would say, well, isn't this upsetting? And I'd kind of explain it like, it's like I'm floating on a gentle stream or river, and all of this is arising, but it's not really touching me. That's the way to see it. All of this is arising, but it's not actually touching me. I'm actually remaining untouched beneath this experience of dreaming, of sleeping and dreaming. Okay. Yay. Okay. Paragraph 7. The opposite of life can only be another form of life. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it. So he's saying life has no opposite. And I know how this is confusing. I know why it's confusing. Okay, I see it. Okay. He's going, the opposite of life can only be another form of life. It's not really an opposite, is it? He's going to explain it too. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it. What created it is eternal, right? Because it is not opposite in truth. So see how he says the opposite of life is actually not opposite in truth. Its form may change. It may appear to be what it is not. Yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created. So even like the forms that we seem to see here that seem to be the opposite of life, they're not opposite in truth. They're just changing forms. It's still, there's nothing but life. To the ego is saying this reflects death. But truly, when you look at it truly, this is true forgiveness. It's only reflecting life, no matter what. Forms changing is also reflecting life. That's it. That's the ability that we have to be projecting something, right? It's also reflecting life. This mind is making up forms that change. It's making them up. So that's why you can see life in anything. Like, for instance, we had murders. We could see life in murders, right? And my friend told me the other day, she's like, Hope, you can't tell me that like one of your kids is murdered and you're still going to see it this way. I'm like, I'm telling you that I am. I'm telling you because I'm so certain that everything actually reflects life. It's the ego's dream that anything reflects death. My kids can't die. That would be an illusion. It's forms changing. Suffering, there was a Buddhist thing Buddhist story about someone asked, what is compassion? And it's compassion is a woman with no arms and no legs watching her child drowning. Right? Because then, it makes you aware that there's no change. There's nothing she could do about it. And there's no change. It's like she's watching this occur and recognizing life is changeless. That's the compassion. And, anything where you feel empathy for another person, that's a call for compassion. It's truly a call for compassion. And, these experiences that we go through in the world really bring us to compassion over time. That's why every eye will see, right? So it's not like you're asking for people are afraid because this manifestation mindset that's been taught, the ego's idea of spirituality is we should manifest everything that we want. Well, we don't really want anything. And, it's like we're not responsible for these changing things in a dream. Just let them be changeful and recognize what's true. We're responsible for recognizing the truth. See, this idea that we're responsible for all the changeful things in the dream, that's a guilty thought. This you create your reality guilty thought thing is not leading to forgiveness. It's not leading to undoing the mind. Well, it's all leading there eventually, but it's circular at first, right?
Like there's no needs and no desires.
There's no needs and no desires.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's all.
That's right. And that really gets confused too. I actually had a guy come up to me at the lawn and tell me about, everyone has needs and desires, and my teeth are really nice. So I must have needs and desires because I care about brushing my teeth. It's like, man, that is just like way off base. That was way off. Okay. The form is even going to be taken care of in a lovely way as your mind is being released of guilt. Okay. It's okay if you have nice teeth. It's like, I need to knock all my teeth out to prove that I'm desireless. I mean, really, what are you desiring within that? Like, what in the world? It's ridiculous. The ideas that come up. All right. So yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make. It is never its opposite, nor in what it seems to make. This is what we seem to make. It's reflecting nothing. Melikai even asked me, she goes, well, this is manifesting. These murders are manifesting in my mind. Like, what does this mean? I'm like, it means it's a chaotic world that means nothing. It's a meaningless world. It's like these changing forms, you can use them to either reflect to your mind that life is life. Life is life. There's no opposites. It's making changing forms while there's this idea that they're sleeping, right? But it never has an opposite. Or you can use the ego's thought and say, wow, they're gone now. They're lost. They're gone. Their lives are lost. And then some people might go, well, at least they lived enough. That 28-year-old who got cancer and died, that's really bad, Before their time. Yes, exactly. Well, it's the ego's rule. So you can make excuses like, okay, they're both the same. Whether you're saying, well, at least they lived a long life. They were all at least, close to 70 or over 70, right? So that's the ego's way of saying, okay, well, it's all right. But it's not all right if it's a younger person who hasn't gotten a chance to express. So there's always that. Like it's almost like there's a little bit of something that's saying, oh, it's okay, it's nice, it's been a good life. And then there's something, oh, but that's really not acceptable. Yeah, the ego's always looking for relief, right? In form, though, not in the mind. See, you're entitled to complete relief. It's just that it doesn't come through form. It comes in the mind being aware of its creator. Yeah. Forgiveness, through forgiveness. Well, forgiveness is what allows the mind to be aware of the creator, right? Once you forgive an illusion, you're more aware of what's true. That's what's given us. You are totally. You are. Christine's had 1 month of me so far. She has 2.5 more months intensive. She's with me blocking 2 hours a day and also spending all the time that I'm doing this too. Well, most of it, if not here, online. Okay, so the mind cannot become its opposite. That's what this paragraph is saying. It may appear to be confused. It may appear to be fearful, asleep, but its essential nature is never changed. That's what forgiveness reveals. Its essential nature is never changed. So it's like, that's why we could look past the ego's idea that this form reflects that death is real. This form reflects that something real can be lost, that separation is true. And this is why it's possible to heal the mind. If separation were really real, then reconciliation wouldn't even be possible. It wouldn't be possible. That's what Jesus has said before too, and maybe before or after this lesson. I don't know, but it's like you cannot heal something if you want to keep the illusion true. The fact that the illusion is totally untrue is what makes healing possible. So you can't keep the illusion, for instance, that someone died and also expect to be at peace, right? You must be willing to forgive the idea that death is possible at all. So the apparent opposites that we perceive are only an appearance. They can actually be used as proof that there are no opposites, because changing form is still proof of a creative mind, a mind that's awake. Changing forms, no matter what those forms change to, is not proof that life has an opposite. It's actually proof that there's only life. There is only life. It cannot. You wouldn't even be able to make an illusion of changing forms if there wasn't only life. So, see, if really, truly, death existed, there would be no life. There would be no eternal life. Eternal life. How could you have eternal life and have death? You can't. Either eternal life is true, or a life with opposites is true. They're not both true. See,
well, that's what the resurrection is for. They kind of miss the point.
Yeah, Christina's saying that's what the resurrection is for. It's for proving, and it's for proving in the illusion that life has no opposite. But you can use all forms as proof of that. You don't have to accept the ego's idea that this proves that there's no eternal life. It's because there is eternal life that you are able to make it as if there's changing forms in the first place. That cannot. The ideas don't leave their source. They do not leave their source. Their source is eternal life. See that?
Some like quantum physics equation where there's never loss of energy.
Quantum physics equation. Yes.
Changing forms. There's never any gain or loss.
That's right.
Yes.
That's it. So in the creation that's you would call heaven, the true creation, that is an extension of reality. That's actually an extension of reality. Forms don't change to represent anything that even looks like an opposite to life. See, there's only life. We only made it. It's a misperception that has us looking on life and seeing something that appears to be an opposite to life. So that's why it can be corrected, because it's in the mind and it's only a misperception. Forgiveness corrects the misperception. See how it corrects the misperception, and it doesn't forgive a person for doing shit, or you for not being awake enough, or yourself for not being awake enough. You don't need forgiveness. They don't need forgiveness. The thought of separation needs to be forgiven by you. You need to extend forgiveness to the thought of for the thought of separation. Let's say.
Otherwise, you're in the dream doing the forgiving, and it
Yes.
can't go outside. It's got to come from outside and stay there.
Right. Christine's saying that's a good point. Otherwise, the forgiving is only occurring in the dream. The thought of separation in the dream also means in time. The thought of separation is from outside of time. So you want to bring it from outside of time to inside of time. And that's why it actually affects the illusion too. That's why things and circumstances change, right? So it certainly does affect inside of time. But it's forgiveness of a thought that occurs outside of time and is only occurring now. Okay? Yeah. So I forgive you and I forgive me is an inside, totally inside time thing, doing nothing but getting you a little bit of release, which we all want you to have if that's all you can do, the way Jesus is putting it, hey, if that's all you can do, I bless it. But what I'm telling you is you actually want to escape from these loops and take it further than this. Okay. That's what the little willingness has been growing. And, A Course in Miracles also came out in the late 60s. He was saying it was a celestial speed up then. So it's like at this point in time, he's actually asking more of us. It starts with a little bit of willingness, but he's actually asking more of us. He's asking for us to actually collapse time. And, someone told me that somewhere Helen said, the one who channeled the A Course in Miracles, said that only 5 or 6 people in the whole world are going to get this. And that was in the 60s, right? I'm guessing there's more of them now that are actually getting this. And I think those of you who are listening to this are either getting this or are really close to getting this. But for a long time, what most people were doing was just this surface forgiveness. Okay. A long time, meaning since the late 60s. So not too long in the scheme of things. So the dream does not change the dreamer. Okay. The form may be different. The forms may be different, but reality remains as it always was. Same as it ever was. Nothing changes. Okay, let's see what's happening here. All right. Relief in the dream is more like avoidance. That's a good point, Cora. Thank you. And, it said that if that's the kind of relief that you need, again, that's also blessed, because if that's the best you can do, but you're being nudged along here. You're being nudged along to offer more willingness and get the real relief that collapses time and stops you from spinning around over and over again. All right. We're going on to paragraph 8. God creates only mind awake. There it is again. Paragraph 8. God creates only mind awake. God, does not sleep, and his creations cannot share what he gives not, nor make conditions which he does not share with them. So these conditions that we think we made, we did not make. That's why forgiveness says what I thought happened didn't happen. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, with the power to extend forever changelessly, but yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. The thoughts of God are everywhere. There's nowhere that thoughts of God are not. So here's the most radical idea of the lesson. God creates only what is awake. It was fun on an A Course in Miracles group. I was saying, can I be awake and also dislike something? And someone says, A Course in Miracles tells us that we're asleep. And I go, are you sure about that? I didn't even know about this lesson. I mean, I've done it before, but I didn't know specifically where it was, I was like, are you sure about that? Because A Course in Miracles constantly reminds us that we're still as God created us. Do you think God created something that's asleep? And she's like, 100%, I agree with you. I'm like, yes. And it's not because she's agreeing with me. The big yes and rejoicing is she sees that she's awake and she doesn't have that fucking excuse anymore, right? To remain identified as something that she's not. I mean, I get totally stoked about that. I feel complete victory when someone sees that they're actually awake, because knowing that you're awake is knowing that you can choose love. And that it will change things. It will change the way you see. It won't really change anything because everything's changeless. That's real. But it will change the way you see. And that's what we're going for here, a change in the mind. So if God doesn't sleep, then sleep cannot be part of creation. That means it doesn't exist. If God doesn't know fear or separation or guilt or death, then his creations, how could they inherit that shit? They can't inherit things that God didn't create, right? So this is where Jesus is dismantling the belief that the Son of God can actually sleep and become something other than God created. Isn't it amazing? You know, we're on a Course in Miracles group. There's a lot of what I perceive as arrogance going on in the group. Like, I know more than you, you're wrong, all this kind of stuff. And the people who are doing it don't realize that they're awake. They're actually projecting as if I'm asleep and you're asleep and we better figure out how to wake up. And I know how to wake up better than you. Yeah, I'm going to tell you how fucking wrong you are, right? It's fun. For the most part, they stopped talking to me. Well, I blocked a bunch of them too, because they get loud. They get loud on there and then confuse the whole post. I'm like, okay, well, there's a block feature here for a reason, I'm sure. and then you can start communing with the people who actually like want to see. Right. And not because, you know, A Course in Miracles says in another part too, people who are looking for controversy will find it. They don't need to find it with you. Hence, we have a block function on Facebook. You don't need to find it with you. You don't have to have every conversation. Right. Yeah. But some of the ones who have been arguing on my posts and I didn't block, I noticed they're quiet. They're just not saying anything now. Maybe there's something there. I warned them too. I was like, I'm not attached to being right on a post, and I'm also not attached to having people see my posts. So I use the block function literally and liberally. So it's basically, if God doesn't know fear, if God doesn't know separation, guilt, or death, his creations cannot have those things for real. They can pretend they have them, and that's where forgiveness again comes in. So the sleeping mind being not a creation of God, it's only a dream about creation. So that idea that you create your own reality and this is reality, or from the Christian sense, you know, at the memorial, I remember a Christian came up and he wanted to say his piece, and his piece was that God created this world. And it's like, aw, that's sweet. You know, God created a world that's dying. Okay. Yeah. And then you just have to be really good and then you can go to heaven. Right. So the thought of death is not like, it's not like a true opposite to life, because life doesn't have any opposite. God's thought remain forever changeless. They're never going to be including death, because reality is changeless. So really forgiveness is acknowledging what reality actually is, that the death is not in any changing form, even in a grotesque thing, is always proof. It's always evidence of eternity. It's truly evidence of eternity, because there's no form, even form, that can be opposite of life. It cannot be that, because it hasn't left its source. It's an effect of an idea, and that idea did not leave its source. So creation is extending forever, not by becoming something different, but by continuing to express what God is. So let everything be an expression of what God is, right? And that's one reason why you don't have to argue with people. You know, if you recognize, okay, they want that perception that death is real. They're basically saying they want to die, and you know that's an observation that you can make. Doesn't mean you have to get judgmental or blamey about it. It doesn't mean you have to go, that's what's wrong with the world. It's these people.
That's why there's a block function. You don't have to go.
Yeah, you don't have to go there. That's right. You do not have to. Yeah, that's not your function to blame the people in the world for making the world like it is. There's nothing wrong with the world. It's reflecting a mind that believes in separation. And your function is to undo that thought of separation, which...
Because it doesn't end until we all get there.
It doesn't. Well, the world, the spinning world, you're right, doesn't end. This spinning world, spinning through death and life, birth and death, and pain and sorrow. It does not end till every eye sees, and that's why Jesus is still directing the atonement. He's directing the atonement. He's not going to stop directing the atonement. He's outside of time doing it, but he's not going to stop doing that until every eye sees. The vision is completely clear for everyone. And so our function doesn't end until every eye sees. I've told my friends, if you get to the death realm, that means your body apparently died. Do not come back. We don't need you to come back. You can also help from outside of time. All right. We don't need you to come into time. Coming into time, what does it mean? It means you took on the thought of separation. Taking on the thought of separation is not in itself helpful. Can you be helpful once you took on the thought of separation? Yes, you can. And that's what this is about. Because this course is directed to a mind who has taken on the thought of separation, who's pretending to be asleep. But this is not needed to help the world. So if you find yourself in the death realm, like you don't wake up before your body apparently dies, and you find yourself with that decision again to come back again, you can say no, and that'll be most helpful to everyone, and you'll love it.
Someone said to me, if someone asks you in that realm when you go there, if you thought you could do better, say yes.
Don't say yes. Exactly. See, that's what's going on. It's like, do you think you can do better next time? And you're like, yes, I'm going to do much better this next time. Yeah. You're back again. Yeah, because you've been important. You made yourself important. And really, you're back to nowhere. It's nowhere. It's not a place. It's nothing. It's really nothing. You're just taking on the thought of separation, going under amnesia again willingly. Yeah. So creation, it extends forever. And it's not by becoming anything different. It's by continuing to express what God is. It's always expressing what God is. That's why this is a misperception. This is not extension. It's misperception. But nothing leaves its source. No thought leaves its source. And it's an expression of thought. That means that it has not left its source too. Okay. So, and because of that, the misperception being in the mind, it can be corrected. Healing can happen. So the key insight for paragraph 8 is that opposites belong to perception and not reality. In reality, there's only life extending love. So that's why this is perception and not seeing. But you can also see past the perception and accept that there's only reality. There's only love. And what you perceive that's not love is not really there. So we're denying reality to illusions. That's what forgiveness is. What I thought happened never happened. Okay. Let's see what Cora is saying here. The awakening is only happening within time. Yes, and time does not exist. Thank you. That's beautiful. And this section is urging us to flip our logic, to notice we've been following insane logic. Yes, and in the text we're on the sane perception too. In an insane dream world, we took seriously. Remember, we forgot to laugh, right? So forgiveness is also about laughter. All right, paragraph 9. What seems to be the opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it is not and to assume an alien power which it does not have, a foreign state it cannot enter, or a false condition not within its source, it merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, an interval. Time is an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. The changes wrought are substanceless, and all events are nowhere. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was. So here's a pretty clear description of the separation, right? The mind attempts to be something that it's not. It imagines it has a power that God didn't give to it. the power to separate, the power to become something different, to alter reality. That's the specialness, being special, the power to become something different. But Jesus says the mind cannot actually enter this state. It doesn't enter this state. That's what the dreaming is. It dreams it. Okay? That's what the dreaming is. You haven't entered the state. If you entered the state, it wouldn't be a dream. It would be reality, and it can't be reality. The entire world of time becomes part of this dream. Past, future, birth, death, gain, loss, personal history, personal identity. They're coming from this dream of time. It's all within the dream of time. So this isn't saying that our experience feels unreal. It feels real because we're still identified with the thought of separation. Really, when we're not identified with the thought of separation, it won't even feel real. So the feeling real, right? The feeling real is what's giving us the opportunity. It's a forgiveness opportunity. So reality has not been altered by our experience, is what this paragraph is basically saying. And when awakening occurs, nothing real changes. Again, you're already awake. So this awakening is like awakening from a dream that never was. The mind is really just recognizing what's always been true. It continues as it always was, exactly as it always was. The dream never altered what the mind is. So paragraph 10. Let us today be children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Right? It's fun when we do deny our holy heritage right after we read that. It's fun. We don't have to be judgy about it, really. You know, it's not being one bit judgy about it. It's just recognizing, wow, there I am denying my holy heritage again, right after I said I wouldn't do it. How cute, right? Let yourself be cute about it. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shut his eyes or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps and sees in dreams an opposite to what he is? Who changes life? It's a question. Who changes life because he shut his eyes or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps and sees in dreams an opposite to what he is? Does he change life? No, he doesn't. We will not ask for death in any form today. Can you imagine that? You read that where it says, we will not ask for death in any form today, and then go tell someone, I'm going to die. I want you to know. You got to just laugh about that. My friend listens to this too. The one who had this experience today, you know, and I know he's laughing about it. If he's listening live or later on, he's laughing about it. You know, it's like, we got to be able to laugh at ourselves, right? Because it's just funny that we would read something like that and then immediately, in an effort to show someone about who you are, totally do the opposite of what A Course in Miracles is saying. You know, what followed after that, I'm sure, was beautiful. It was all about, you know, these ideas about God. They go on forever and all this stuff like that. But it's like, no, you're not going to die. That's what we're practicing today. So, you know, you might go, oh shit, wow, I didn't really practice that lesson today. Okay, I'll do it one more day. You can do a lesson more than one day. You know, you might feel like that. It's not saying that's what you should do, but you might feel like that. You go, oh, you know what? I want another chance at that. I want another shot at practicing that lesson. I'm just going to do it one more day. I don't know. I've done that before. You know, I've done all the lessons like four times or something like that. I don't know. I kind of like, sometimes I bounce around. All right. So we will not ask for death in any form today, nor will we let imagined opposites to life, right? These are imagined opposites to life, abide even an instant where the thought of life eternal has been set by God himself. We will not let them abide an instant. See? So it's like, yeah, if you didn't do the lesson, you can do it again. You can take a whole year in one lesson. It's the same. All you really need to do is get one of them completely, and then you're fucking stoked. You passed the Course in Miracles. So after laying out the metaphysics of what's going on here, Jesus is now turning to the practice. This is the practice. This paragraph is about the practice. He's inviting us to stop denying what we are. Okay. Our holy heritage, he says in this paragraph, is not something that we have to earn. It's something that we accept. Okay. It's what God already gave us. This holy heritage, this eternal life. We deny it whenever we identify with death, for instance. Fear, guilt, victimhood, lack, all death. They're all still death. Separation, same thing. So the beautiful metaphor that I see here is that closing your eyes doesn't change reality, does it? Like, even in the dream, you can use it metaphorically. Closing your eyes doesn't change anything that's in the field, right? And closing your eyes on reality doesn't change reality. So we deny it, but we don't change it. Sleeping doesn't change reality. Dreaming doesn't change reality. Likewise, the dream of separation can never change you. Nothing that you seem to do in the dream can ever alter who you are, God's creation. All right? So to ask for death is to accept any thought that denies life. Every grievance, fear, judgment, belief that something can be lost, it's an invitation to separation. It's saying, come on in, separation, make my life. make more dreaming. So this is coming to the practice part. Today's practice is very simple. Refuse to give reality to imagined opposites. Life eternal has already been placed within us by God. So refuse to give any reality to any opposites. All right. Paragraph 11. His holy home we strive to keep today. It says strive here, and I just said you don't need to strive. You don't really need to strive, but in that way, even though it says the word here. His holy home we strive to keep today as he established it and wills it be forever and forever. You can say that this is the only thing, like Jesus has said, be in a hurry only to recognize the truth, right? So that's the kind of striving that we're talking about here. It's not worldly striving, okay? So his holy home we strive to keep today. Like, be in a hurry to recognize the truth in your mind as God established it. Okay, and wills it to be forever and forever. He is Lord of what we think today. This is actually a choice that we're making. He is Lord of what we think today. Okay, he wants to be Lord of what we think today. And in his thoughts, but we have free will. So we can make him not Lord. We can make the ego Lord of what we think too. And in his thoughts, which have no opposite, we understand there is one life, and that we share with him, with all creation, with their thoughts as well, whom he created in a unity of life that cannot separate in death and leave the source of life from where it came. So this is bringing us to the lesson's conclusion. There is only one life. The holy home of God doesn't need improvement. It doesn't. The home of God doesn't need purification or repair. Okay. A Course in Miracles also talks about purifying your mind of the thought of guilt, right? But the mind doesn't really need purification because it is still as God created it. Okay. But we're using words as pointers. These words, all words are like 2 degrees separate from reality. First, you have the perceptual world, and then you have words to describe the world and also describe reality. So it's like, this is there's no opposites, and we don't need to be purified. What we're purifying is this imposter, right? Fear is the imposter here. Separation is the imposter here. So that's what's going on here. It only needs to be recognized. Our holy home, as God created, only needs to be recognized as God established it. So our home itself, which is our mind, does not really need to be purified. What we're purifying is this thought of separation that we took on. It can't actually enter our mind. That's why the last lesson from last week was, I am at home. Fear is the imposter here. Okay. Our home needs to be recognized as God established it. That's purifying really the thought of separation, the guilty beliefs. In God's thoughts, there's not any opposites. So there's no separate lives. So this lesson is about what there being one life. There are no separate lives. That's one thing that my friend shared with his granddaughter. That was the beautiful part that he shared about the lesson, that there's no separate lives. There's only one life, and that's shared by God. So, it might be started out like, I'm not going to die, but you might get the perception that I did die. And just remember, I haven't died, because there's only one life. All right. It's shared by God and his son and all creation. So don't be feeling like you have to be upset. It's not like don't be upset. It's like when you do get upset, you're actually believing that something's been lost. So if you're aware that in the midst of upset, that you're actually, the cause of your upset is believing that something has been lost, you're doing this lesson. You're actually doing this lesson. The unity cannot be broken by death, because death can't divide what wasn't separate. Okay, so if the unity cannot be broken by death, death doesn't matter. It's meaningless. It can't really happen. And so the form, death in form, all that is evidence that you've been thinking that death can happen. That's all. It's not evidence that death does happen. It's evidence that you've been thinking that it could happen. The Son can't not leave the Father. Creation cannot leave life. Yes.
Do you think that maybe because the forms can change, so we would interpret it as death, but perhaps that's just this human perception of changing form? Like the form disappears.
Yes.
Obviously, still.
We're interpreting, it's a misinterpretation. Yes.
It's a misinterpretation, and we call it death.
We call it death.
We can say, oh, I saw the transformation.
Right. You can see it as
energy.
transformation.
I notice a transformation of energy because that form shifted into a form I can't see.
That's a very good way to put it. Thank you. So Melekai is sharing that when forms change, the human perception, the human interpretation of that is that it's death. But really, this is transformation. All forms change. Okay, so really, this is transformation, what we've been calling death. And if we're willing to see it as transformation, then what we're doing is we're using everything that we perceive as proof that God is eternal, and there's only eternity. So we're looking at it as transformation rather than death, because there really is transformation. This world is made of thought, which projects energy, and energy doesn't change. The forms that it's projecting change, but the energy does not change. And the thought from where even the thought of separation originates is eternity. So even the thought of separation is an apparent change that really reflects there's no change. It's all changeless if you're willing to see it that way. Thank you for seeing it that way. And thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's really beautiful. So this lesson is inviting us to move beyond this personal identity and to recognize this shared life that unites all things through all perception of all forms. So now that brings us to the final paragraph, paragraph 12. We share one life because we have one source, a source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which he created perfect. As we were, so are we now and will forever be. A sleeping mind must waken as it sees its own perfection that the Lord of life so perfectly, it fades into what is reflected there. So seeing that every form, every changeful form is actually reflecting, it's actually mirroring the Lord of life perfectly. It's just that this interpretation, that's why we're asking the Holy Spirit to help us see it differently. This interpretation that we made, we're using these reflections, these mirror reflections, to prove loss much of the time. So now we're changing the way we see. We're changing the way we see these mirrored reflections to prove that there's only eternal life. Each mirrored reflection, when we get an upset feeling about it, what's that saying? We have thought about it wrongly. We've misinterpreted it. So now we're interpreting all changing forms as a reflection that everything is eternal. Only the eternal is real. So now it's no more, and okay, and so then it says, and now it is no more a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected and the light which makes reflection possible. That's why you look on the world and you only see God. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. I believe that comes later on in the lessons. Okay. And that's one that stays in my mind a lot. God is in everything. I hear Ben Bigelow singing it. God is in everything I see. Something like that. Because God is in my mind. Okay. It becomes the thing reflected. No vision is now needed. For the awakened mind is one that knows its source, itself, and its holiness. That's the end of the text. That's the paragraph 12. So this is the final paragraph. It's the culmination of the entire lesson. Basically, we share one life because we share one source. The perfection of God remains present in the mind because it was never lost. And the sentence that's at the heart of this paragraph, as we were, so are we now and will forever be. So everything in lesson 167 rests on this truth. As we were, so we are now and will forever be. The sun has not changed. Do not let changeful form convince you otherwise. That's all. That's all. Life hasn't changed. Reality hasn't changed. The sleeping mind eventually awakens. Whenever we talked about, the mind isn't really asleep. This is all throughout this lesson. And you see how it goes back and forth like this because the mind isn't really asleep, but we have the power to make it seem like we are and believe that it's true. So that's why it goes back and forth like this. The sleeping mind is eventually going to wake up because sleep has no foundation in reality. Sleep can't actually happen, right? That's why every eye will see, because sleep can't happen. As our mind begins to recognize the perfection that has always been present, the dream of separation, it just loses its attraction. We stop crying over shit. I shared yesterday or the day before yesterday with a friend. Yeah, I saw you crying back there. Do you know that all tears of sorrow are because you misinterpreted something? Right? That's what it means. The ego's face is wet with tears very often because it believes in loss. Don't believe in the ego. All right. And that concludes lesson 167, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I will be back tomorrow for a Course in Miracles deep dive into the text. We're continuing. We're getting toward the end of section 3 of chapter 3. We're getting toward the end of that, and it's called Atonement Without Sacrifice within the chapter called The Sane Perception. So that's super exciting. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Hawaii time. In the meantime, if you want more content, check out my website, hopejohnson.org. Thank you so much. And until next time, mahalo, aloha, and a hui ho. Woo! Yay.